I've done a few videos about emotional incest, and today I specifically want to talk about how if you're a victim of emotional incest, how it can be affecting your relationships with your brothers and sisters. Stay tuned. So you've all heard of sibling rivalry, and I've actually done a video on sibling rivalry. You can click up right now for it if you want to understand that a little bit more. But today I'm going to focus more specifically on problems in sibling relationship with brothers and sisters if you're the chosen one, the scapegoat, the victim of emotional incest. Now, why am I using those words, the chosen one, the scapegoat, the prince, or the princess? We can always include those terms as well. Well, if you're not familiar with emotional incest, here's another link for you, because you can go to the link right here, and this will tell you more in depth about emotional incest for a video that I've done, a couple videos actually I've done in the past. Today, though, I'm not going to talk broadly about emotional incest. I just specifically want to talk about the impact with your siblings, because it can be huge, it can be enormous, because the child that's chosen to be the victim by the dysfunctional parent, either chosen from the father to a son or daughter or from a mother to a son or daughter, that child now is elevated in their status in terms of how they're growing up. Because if you're really young, you don't know what's wrong. You don't know it's going to hurt you in the long run. You're not aware of any negatives to this because you're being propped up like a king or queen. You're getting all the extra attention because the focus is on you, in a way being the life partner of either your father or mother, because more than likely because of their dysfunctional marriage. So rather than dealing with the marriage, they're choosing one of their children to be their life partner, so to speak. And they're emotionally smothering them, and that attention initially growing up, especially if you're quite young, like age 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you're going to love it because you get treated in special ways that your brothers and sisters do not get treated. So you're being propped up and put on a pedestal. Well, guess who's watching it? If you happen to have siblings, your siblings are watching it. They're aware of everything because siblings do that anyhow. They're aware of all the family dynamics, and that's why it's so important for parents, and most healthy parents do this, where if one kid gets something, the other kids get it, because you're trying to equal it out. Well, emotional incest is the opposite of that. It's very blatant in terms of how one child is getting special attention. So now you have these siblings on the side watching this, and they have a lot of feelings about it that they may not be in touch with. Most of these feelings are going to have to do with anger, rage, jealousy, confusion, maybe some guilt about feeling so angry and jealous. All this then can lead to insecurity about oneself, like what's wrong with me? Why am I not being treated the same like my chosen brother or sister is? And then that permeates into how the relationships unfold, because then you're going to go after typically the chosen one. Either you're going to ostracize them, you're going to beat them up, you're going to overall treat them like crap, you're going to punish them in some way, because a child growing up doesn't know what to do with these complicated feelings. You can't go to your mom and dad and talk about this and get some sort of explanation, because the parent who is the perpetrator, who's doing this to one of their own children, is certainly not in touch with it, and if they are, they're not going to admit it, especially to one of their other children. So you can't go to a parent to discuss this and get some support. And outsiders, for example, aunts, uncles, other people in the family, or a pastor or something, they are probably not even aware of it either, because it's very insidious emotional incest. On the outside, to other people watching this family, oh, what a loving family, and look how well they treat their children, not knowing that one has been singled out to be the favorite. And even if they do sense one of the children is the favorite, how lovely that appears to the outside world, because this child's just being treated well. They're being brought everywhere. They're being showered with gifts. They're being treated like a prince or princess. They're attending a lot of events maybe with the perpetrating parent. So on the outside it looks like, oh, what a great parent, but aha, that's not the case. It's actually hurting a child sometimes for a lifetime emotionally. So if you're a sibling to a child who's a victim of emotional incest in your family, by watching this video, hopefully, and by educating yourself, you will realize that the child who is the victim doesn't want that. They're not actively choosing it. It's being heaped on them by the parent as a way to take over the child so the parent doesn't feel all alone. Well, the child doesn't choose that or want that. When they're quite young, they don't even really know what's even going on. And they certainly don't realize how it's going to screw them up later in life emotionally, because they're not developing a strong sense of identity and going through the normal developmental stages of understanding one's identity, because it's been thwarted by the offending parent. So realize that the scapegoated child, the one who's been chosen, is not volunteering for this. And when they get older and realize how much it's damaged them, they're like, whoa. They had no idea what kind of foundation was being set for them as a child. If you're a sibling, know that your parents probably don't love you less in any way. They love you equally in terms of the affection and love that they have inside their heart. It's just you have to realize that they are very damaged in their own right, not seeking therapy, not getting help, not talking to anybody, not looking at this problem in an adult way of trying to fix it or working on their marriage to try to fix it. So instead of doing any of those healthy things, what they've decided to do is just take over one of their children. But for the other children in the family, as you're maturing and getting older, just realize it's not about you. You didn't do anything wrong. Your parents probably don't love you any less. It's just that they have their chosen child to answer their needs. Now, how it affects the relationships with the siblings is that they're rarely going to be close, definitely when they're all children, and probably as they get older too, unless they work on this, usually in therapy, some kind of family therapy. If you don't do therapy and you're able to talk it out with your brothers and sisters as you mature, that's fantastic. But a lot of families, that doesn't happen. It's not possible, depending on how far apart people live and so on and so forth. So you have this division. You have this big gulf between siblings sometimes, because it has never really been worked out. As many of you know, I'm a victim of emotional incest. I was the chosen one, and it really damaged my life, and I've had to work very hard for many decades to understand it and develop my own identity, because it was so thwarted by my mother. And so I've also seen damage in my relationships with my brother and sister, because why wouldn't there be? It's very understandable. If another child on the outside is seeing their brother getting a lot of extra attention, or of course in other families it could be the sister, well, what are they going to do with that? They don't know what to do with it other than think that there's probably A, something wrong with them, and B, have anger against the child who's getting that attention. So this stuff is rarely talked about, and then life goes on, and before you know it, somebody's in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and so on, and it's never been dealt with, and the relationships in many ways have been destroyed by the emotional incest that took place when the children were all young. But you have to remember, it's also affected negatively the child who was the chosen one. And we know your parents are a bit bent, because they're the ones who did the offending in the first place. So I'm hoping this video just points awareness to anybody who's involved in this kind of family dynamic, whether it's unfolding right now, then get some help, maybe some family therapy if possible. If you can't get your parents to go or your siblings to go on your own. Talk about it, tell people, know that this is what's happening in fact. And so I'm trying to draw attention to emotional incest overall. Emotional incest is very sad and very destructive and can destroy families. So please leave me some comments or questions if there's anything you'd like to know or to add. I'd love to hear from you, especially if you're a victim of emotional incest. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like these kind of mental health videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.